The Constellation. When Clara moved to the tiny mountain town of Wren's Hollow, she expected silence, maybe even peace. What she found instead was the constant presence of the night sky, vast, overwhelming, and oddly alive. One evening, restless and unable to sleep, Clara wandered into her backyard. The stars above were sharper here, colder somehow. Her neighbor, an old man with clouded eyes, had once told her, "Mind the constellation with no name. If you see it shift, you best run." Clara chuckled at the memory. Superstition. She tilted her head back to study the sky. There it was, a cluster of stars she hadn't noticed before, shaped like a long, crooked hand reaching down. The stars twinkled faintly, as if breathing. She blinked. The stars shifted. One finger curled slightly. She stumbled back. Her heart pounded in her ears. It must be an illusion. Clouds, exhaustion, something. Laughing nervously, Clara turned to go inside. The door, however, wouldn't budge. It was as if something on the other side was pushing back. The air grew heavy. Behind her, a cold wind slithered through the grass. Slowly, unwillingly, she turned. The constellation had grown larger, stretching across the sky, its skeletal fingers now fully curled into a fist. Darkness bled outward from it, swallowing the stars around it. Clara gasped as the night above began to descend like a curtain, swallowing the world. The old man's words rang in her head. "You best run." She bolted through the yard, past the dying apple tree and the rusted swing set, aiming for the forest beyond. But the further she ran, the more twisted everything became. Trees warped into gnarled figures. The ground pulsed like something alive. Above her, the constellation pursued, dragging the darkness behind it. She spotted a light, small, flickering, between the trees. A lantern? A house? Desperate, Clara pushed toward it, branches tearing at her skin. She burst into a clearing and stumbled into a circle of pale blue candles. In the center stood the old man, his blind eyes wide open, glowing faintly. "You saw it," he croaked. "You brought it here." Clara opened her mouth to protest, but something clamped around her ankle. She looked down. A shadowy hand, impossibly long and cold, had emerged from the ground, its fingers tightening. She screamed, trying to wrench free, but more hands appeared, clawing, pulling. "You looked too long," the old man whispered. Tears streamed down his face. "Now it looks back." The last thing Clara saw before the darkness devoured her was the sky, the hand-shaped constellation slowly opening, revealing a gaping black void where the stars had once been. And from that void, something ancient smiled. Clara awoke to a bone-deep cold. She lay on a floor of cracked stone, under a sky she didn't recognize. There were no stars here, only an endless churning mist, lit from within by flashes of something writhing, unseen. Groaning, she sat up. Around her were others, figures, hunched and broken, their faces twisted in silent screams. Their eyes glowed faintly like dying stars. Some crawled aimlessly, others stood rooted in place, weeping silently. "Where am I?" Clara thought, but she already knew. Somewhere beyond, the ground shook. A deep, slow heartbeat throbbed through the air, making the mist pulse and retreat for a moment. In that brief gap, Clara saw it. a colossal shape in the distance, dragging itself across the cracked horizon. Long arms stretched upward, reaching where the constellation had once been. It was looking for her. Suddenly, a hand gripped her arm. It was the old man from Wren's Hollow, though here his eyes burned like blue fire. "You can still escape." His mouth barely moved, but not alone. Clara's heart hammered. "How?" He pointed to the figures around them. "You must wake them. Together, you can tear a hole back to your world. Alone," his voice cracked, "you'll be part of the sky." Above them, the mist thickened. The creature's long fingers brushed the ground miles away, but each step it took cracked the earth closer to them. "No time," the old man hissed. "Choose." Clara stumbled to her feet. She rushed to the nearest figure, a young boy, no older than 10, his hands curled into fists. She shook him, shouted, but he didn't stir. The ground split nearby with a deafening crack. A grotesque, spider-like limb punched through, feeling, searching. Panic flared in Clara's chest. "Choose." She turned. The old man was already being dragged away by a black tendril. His form. Clara clenched her jaw, reached deep into herself, and screamed, not with fear, but with rage. The air shivered. Around her, the figures twitched. Eyes flickered open. One by one, they stirred, their bodies brittle, but burning with a shared, desperate fury. The earth beneath them cracked wider. The creature loomed above, its shadow blotting out the mist. Clara locked eyes with the others. Together, they ran toward the break in the world, the last thin seam of light. And somewhere, behind them, the creature roared, a sound like a dying star imploding. The race for survival had begun. Clara ran, breathless, the cracked ground splintering beneath her feet. Around her, the freed souls moved like shadows, half alive, half dreaming. The seam of light ahead grew thinner, flickering with every step the creature took. The creature's voice rumbled through the mist. Not words, but a low, soul-shaking sound that twisted the air. Clara dared a glance back. It was closer now. No longer just a shadow, it had shape. A towering skeletal form, stitched together from stars that had long since died. Its hollow eyes locked onto her. It knows me, she realized. It chose me. The ground buckled violently. A chasm opened between Clara and the seam of light. She skidded to a halt, the others crashing into her. They were trapped. From the darkness behind, tendrils slithered forward like roots, seeking, hungry. Some of the souls were already being pulled back, screaming silently. Clara felt the pull too, deep inside her mind, in the parts that still remembered fear. Not alone, she thought, clenching her fists. "We hold the line," she shouted, her voice cracking. The figures around her stirred, their faces hardening. Wordlessly, they formed a circle, joining hands. Their bodies began to glow, faintly at first, then stronger. A pale blue light that pushed the darkness back an inch at a time. The creature shrieked, furious. The light from their circle expanded, searing into the mist. For the first time, Clara saw the true sky above them, a swirling mass of broken constellations, torn apart by the creature's hunger. "We can fix this," she thought. "We can fight." The seam of light trembled on the other side of the chasm. It was closing. With a cry, Clara and the others poured their energy into the light, willing it to bridge the gap. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a thread of silver shot out from the seam, latching onto Clara's chest like a lifeline. The creature roared and lunged forward, its skeletal fingers reaching. Clara felt the cold shadow of it brush her back. "Now!" she screamed. The circle shattered as they leapt. The world tore open in a blinding flash, and Clara fell, tumbling through a tunnel of stars and screams and memories. Just before the light consumed her, she caught one last glimpse of the creature, standing alone in the broken sky, watching her go. It smiled again. Clara woke up in her backyard, gasping. The night was still. The stars above looked normal. Except there, faintly, in the corner of the sky, the hand-shaped constellation had returned, and this time it was pointing directly at her.